I have the distinct pleasure today of introducing our guest speaker, a multifaceted individual, and I have a hard thing to do. I have to pick a couple of those facets to tell you about, and I think you're going to really enjoy our presentation. Our guest speaker today is Dr. Mary Key. Let me tell you about Mary. She's a business consultant, speaker, she's an author, and an executive coach. And I'm sure she has some information that is very appropriate to all of the executives that have joined us here today, all of you. She heads Mary Key Associates Incorporated. It is a firm that is dedicated and committed to helping leaders and organizations grow through the process of organizational transformation. Mary has worked with Fortune 500 and Fortune 500 companies, and I'm going to just give you a list of some of the companies that have benefited from her and her firm's work. And listen to this, it's pretty impressive. Ericsson, Nokia, Nissan and Infinity, Baycare Health, Bausch & Lomb, Wyeth Nutrition, City Financial Retail, Circuit City, Dorn Technology, Georgia Pacific, the list goes on. Charlotte and Hillsborough counties in the states of Florida, the state of Georgia, the Commonwealth of Virginia. Even internationally, Mary has consulted in Europe, Asia, and Latin America. She's a partner with Renaissance Executive Forums. She provides one-on-one counseling and roundtable facilitation to CEOs of fast-growing companies, and she's served in leadership roles at several international consulting firms. Mary has authored several books. She's authored The Entrepreneurial Cat, 13 Ways to Transform Your Work, Life, and What Animals Teach Us, so we're all looking forward to hearing what animals teach us. She'll be keying on some of that in her talk today. Her latest book out this winter is titled CEO Road Rules: Right Focus, Right People, Right Execution. Mary received her PhD from the University of Virginia. She's a member of Athena, the CEO Council of Tampa Bay, and she's co-founder of No More Homeless Pets of Hillsborough County. In the state of Florida, there are two cats named Jazzy and Groucho, and they allow Mary and her husband Louis to live with them in Tampa. Please welcome Mary Key.
For the past 20 years, I've had the opportunity to work with, in coaching and in consulting, some of the best leaders and entrepreneurs in the country. And I'd like to share with you some of the success habits that I have seen them use. Today I would like to share 3 of these success habits because I think they may help you be even more effective in your work and perhaps more fulfilled in your life. I don't know what your personal passions are, but one of mine is cats. Do we have any cat lovers in the audience? Yes, all right. Dogs. Yeah, okay, raise both hands. But today, because it's 9 lives you're one, making the best of the one you have, we're going to focus a little bit more on cats. Ever since I was a little girl, I've had a passion for furry felines. My cat Cookie, which was a beautiful Maine Coon, patiently sat there and let me put my doll clothes on him. I went through a divorce. I went through my father's untimely death, and cats were right there by my side. And I once had a position I really wanted to hold on to, and I lost him. So cats have always been big, and I'm sure for those of you that are animal lovers, these stories ring home for you. It was my cat Jazzy that lives with me now that actually helped me with these success habits. So, let me tell you how this occurred. Let me take you back to April 1996. I was sitting in my kitchen, and I was having my second cup of coffee. I was getting ready to facilitate one of the CEO roundtables that Camille had mentioned. And I was really sitting there thinking about what separates successful leaders from their not-so-successful counterparts. And Jazzy was curled up next to me, looking cozy as only a cat can. And all of a sudden, she hurls herself across the room, almost knocks my coffee cup in my lap, and gets on the windowsill and starts stalking a bird in the bird feeder. I mean, her face came so close to that window pane, I thought she was going to smash into it. And then it hit me. Have you ever had one of those experiences when you are thinking about something and you're really studying it hard in your mind, and then some distraction happens that you don't even expect, and all of a sudden that distraction kind of turns a light off in your head? Well, that's what happened to me that day. Because Jazzy's mind, body, and spirit were aligned perfectly with where she was going. She did what came naturally. She was curious. She focused 110% while she was hunting. So those elements of really doing what comes naturally and being curious, focusing while hunting, are all part of these success habits that I've noticed with successful entrepreneurs and successful entrepreneurial thinkers. Well, some of you may be saying, well, I am not an entrepreneur. I work for somebody else. I believe that all of us need to be more entrepreneurial in our lives, particularly women. Because being entrepreneurial is really about being proactive. It's about setting a vision and goals and holding that intention and trusting that everything around you will support you if you can stay in that positive space. So, success habit number 1. Do what comes naturally. Cats don't worry about what others think. Part of their considerable charm is their catitude. Now, this does not go without envy. I was shocked. I was listening to Jay Leno, and Jay Leno was cat bashing one evening in his monologue. Yeah, he said, I have no idea what women see in cats. They sleep all day, they don't come when you call, they stay out all night, everything they hate in a man, they love in a cat. So, what excites you? What's natural for you? I'd like you just for a minute while you're munching on your food to think back to a time when you were so energized by what you were doing. Time just passed. You might have been working, but at that moment you didn't really care about getting paid. You didn't even think about it. Get that idea in your mind. What were you doing? Whatever came to mind, whether it be something you did at work or something you did in a hobby or just in seeking pleasure, that is the tip-off to what might be purposeful for you. Now, some of you might have clarity. My sister Joan, for example, knew from the time she was 7 that she loved taking care of people, and she became a nurse. I was the kind of person that used to get postcards from the University of Massachusetts telling me, you are now a junior, you must pick a major. Going with your personal purpose can build a very viable business. I was listening to some of the young women that received the scholarships and some of the things that they want to do. And it reminds me of this story. There was a young woman named Debbie who had 3 children. And Debbie had a passion for cooking. Do we have any people who love to cook here? Yeah. Passion. But most of all, Debbie loved to bake cookies. So Debbie would bake cookies, and she would do this for the people that she loved, and her husband started bringing some of his friends home. Her husband was an entrepreneur, and some of his friends had businesses, and they would sit there and munch on Debbie's cookies, and one day, he almost, forgive me for saying this while you're eating, spit his cookie out in Debbie's face because Debbie shocked him with the news that I am going to start a business too. And they said, oh, really? What are you going to do? And she said, I am going to bake cookies. Well, Mrs. Debbie Fields recalls that story and how unsupported she felt, even by her family and friends. Because even though they adored her cookies, they didn't have confidence that she could become one of the most successful women entrepreneurs. Sometimes when we get really caught up in our work, we might feel like there's a little ache there inside, but we're not really sure why. And it might be because we're off purpose with what we're really doing. So asking ourselves, taking time to reflect and go away in a personal retreat is really an important thing to do. A colleague of mine, his name is Dick Leiter. Dick wrote a book called The Power of Purpose. And when he was preparing for that particular book, he interviewed people in the twilight years of their lives, people between 75 and 95, and he asked one question. If you could live your life over again, what would you do differently? Interesting question. In response, the top three responses kind of were said in different words, but they fell into three basic buckets. And one of the big ones was, I would be more reflective about my life. I would think more about some of the things I was doing, because it was as if I was 30 years old and I kept going, and then I lifted my head up and suddenly I was 45, and then I kept going and suddenly I lifted my head up and I was 60. So that they would reflect more, think more about what was really important. Interestingly, the other two areas, second was they would have taken more risks in all aspects of their lives, in finance and romance, and just everything that they did. And lastly, they would have given back more to others. They would have been more engaged in a community or in a way where they were giving back. And that's what makes a network like this so special. It's really a great opportunity to support each other and to give back. So, what's purposeful for you? Jazzy the Cat would say, if your position or your project involves unraveling yarn and fetching sticks, unravel the yarn. Go find a dog to fetch the sticks. Second success habit is be curious and find the right niche. You know, the first success habit's about going inside, but we don't live in isolation. So it's important to look at that external environment. Cats know their territory by sight and scent. Those of you who have had cats or have cats now, have you ever walked into your house after a hard day's work or just coming back from shopping to find your cat sort of curled up in a weird position, laying on the bookshelf or maybe inside your briefcase or your knapsack? Anybody have that happen? Cats use conventional things unconventionally. And so don't successful entrepreneurial thinkers. One of my favorite examples of this is Jim McCann. Jim founded 1-800-Flowers. He took an old state business, like the floral design business, which was kind of mom and pop and loosely organized by FTD at the time he started 1-800-Flowers. And he saw this trend of all of us being mobile and moving to different parts of the country. And so he said, you know, if you have one central place where you can call in free of charge, 1-800-Flowers, right? And you work with people who are going to be your partners and make sure that you show pictures of what you're doing, that you have quality control, and that you really make a scalable business that can be replicated. And that was the magic of 1-800-Flowers. By the way, they were the first organization that sold flowers to go to the net. So they really still dominate the net and the floral business because of that. So Jim McCann saw trends. So what are some of the trends that are impacting you in your work right now? What are some of those? Anybody want to call out a trend? What's a trend that's impacting you right now?
Mortgage industry.
Mortgage industry. Say more. Real estate, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Other trend that's impacting.
Interest rates?
Interest rates, what? The aging of America. Yeah, their whole business is being built around the aging baby boomers, or about educating the workplace on how Generation X and Generation Y are motivated because people are confused. Okay, so the question becomes, what are the trends impacting your business or your job? What are you doing to address those trends? And what would you like to be doing to address those trends that you're not? Very, very powerful exercise. I use this a lot in strategic planning work with companies. And it's amazing how by looking at trends, they begin to make a shift in their business and maybe look at some things that were old and stayed in a conventional way. Well, the first two success habits I talked about, doing what comes naturally and being curious and find the right niche, don't mean anything unless you do this next one. This is the one that's really critical. Make the leap. You can know yourself well, you can know your environment, you can have great ideas, but if you don't make that leap, you're really going to miss the boat. Cats strategically position themselves to hurl themselves across the room like Jazzy did, or to make a leap to that bookcase, because they trust they're going to land on all fours. What happens when a cat makes the leap and misses its mark? Have you ever seen that? What do? They act as if I didn't get my nose on that chair. And the next time, I may not jump there. They act as if. What keeps us from making the leap? And I'll give you a hint. It's a four-letter word we can use in public, and it starts with an F. Fear. Fear. You know, studies on fear and worry, if you look at them in aggregate, say that about 85% of what we fear never happens. 85%. You believe that? And yet fear can rob us so much of our present. One of my favorite scenes in the old movie, The Last Crusade, with Indiana Jones, is the scene where Indiana's running. Of course, it's played by Harrison Ford. He's being chased by everything. And he's so confident about it, and he gets to this one spot, and he's like on the precipice of a mountain. And he realizes that he has to make a gigantic leap, which seems impossible to get to the other side. So Indiana's face, you can see it kind of droop, and he's looking, and he's looking, and of course everybody's chasing him, and he's losing his lead. Then he hears his dad, who happens to be played by Sean Connery, and I listen to him too. His dad is saying in his ear, "You can do it, Indiana, you can do it." And in his mind's eye, Indiana begins to see this bridge that crosses the chasm. So Indiana takes a breath, takes a running start, and trusts. He makes the leap, and the bridge appears. He makes it to the other side. Of course, he cuts the bridge down, and all the people chasing him fall into the chasm. It's a wonderful metaphor for the importance of making the leap and realizing that I've worked with so many successful people and some that are not. Nobody ever knows exactly how you're going to get there. You just decide. And there's so many successful people in this room. Isn't that the truth? I mean, is there anybody in this room that knew exactly every single step they needed to take to get there and work out exactly like that? If there is, I want them to finish this speech. So a wonderful example, I think, of a woman who did something brave is a woman named Taryn Rose. Does anybody know who Taryn Rose is? Okay. Figures you would know. You're a shoe horse, aren't you? Okay. Taryn Rose has a passion for shoes. Do we have any people in the audience that have a passion for shoes? My new network group, which I'm so honored to be part part of is Athena, and I know many of the Athena members are here, and some of you are members of both groups, and it's great to have you here. And Athena had an event that involved shoes. It was the best attended event I think Athena had had here. And, so I think Singer Timor was involved in that. But anyway, the reason I'm telling you this is that Taryn Rose was an orthopedic surgery resident. And she was working long shifts, and she was doing well in school, and her shifts were 36 hours in length, and instead of going home and going to sleep after her shift like her colleagues did, what Taryn Rose would do is she would go to the mall and find the last 15 minutes in Neiman Marcus to do power shopping for shoes before she went to bed. So she obviously had a passion. And what she would like to do is wear heels to the hospital. But she discovered that she couldn't find any comfortable shoes. And so she then realized that she had the passion, that was natural for her. She looked at her environment and made the distinction that, you know what, this quandary I have about shoes is every person's quandary. I mean, to find great looking shoes that are orthopedically sound and comfortable, she couldn't do it. So she decided to leave she finished school, but she decided not to practice being an orthopedic surgeon and start a shoe business. She said, can you imagine? Here's my mother talking about my daughter, the doctor, and oy vey, she becomes a shoe salesperson. So she did line up some great contacts with the upper end stores. And then probably one of the ultimate shoe divas, Oprah Winfrey, picked up on her business, and her business now is in the multiple of millions. And when she was interviewed about what kept her back initially, she said it was fear. Sometimes we're afraid of success. Sometimes we're afraid of failure. And Taryn Rose was fearful of regret. She was fearful that she would regret that she never became an orthopedic surgeon. But so far, she's pretty happy. In fact, Jamie Foxx wore a pair of her new line to the Academy Awards this year. She just opened a new line for men. So, what is the leap that you need to be making? In my new book, CEO Road Rules, we interviewed over 50 CEOs of primarily privately held companies, and we talked to them about what made them successful and fulfilled in their lives. And consistently, what they said was, it's really important to take calculated risks. So it doesn't have to be one big, huge risk like Taryn Rose deciding not to become an orthopedic surgeon and doing something else. Sometimes, as Jazzy would say, it's the little pounces along the way, taking those risks personally and professionally to really push the corner of the envelope for ourselves. So it's these three habits, and there are several more I'd love to talk to you about if we had more time. Doing what comes naturally, being curious and finding the right niche, and focusing while hunting, and making that leap strategically. And all of this takes courage. It takes courage to assess ourselves. It takes courage to come up with a strategy to change. And it takes a lot of courage to make the leap and not realize where you're going to actually land, and trusting that you'll land on all fours. It reminds me of a beautiful passage from Marianne Williamson's work, A Return to Love, when she says, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate, but that we are powerful beyond measure. And Jazzy the Cat knew I was speaking to a group of powerful and talented women and the brave men who came here with us. And wanted me to share with you a cat wisdom. And the cat wisdom goes something like, the fur always sticks to the tongue. And of course it's hard to translate this into human terms because cats don't speak in English, right? The fur always sticks to the tongue. And what that means is, no matter how many obstacles, how difficult the road, or how frightened you get, Just remember, you can lick it.
The 2007 Executive Woman of the Year is a wonderful example of a woman who has persisted against the odds for the things she believes in and wants. She has achieved in what was predominantly a man's world. She's known not only for her courage and commitment to the community, but also for her integrity. She has overcome challenge after challenge. She has received countless humanitarian, leadership, and service awards. She has a successful career in public service and as a mother, grandmother, and wife. Our recipient began her public service career in 1972 with her election to the school board. She served in the Florida House of Representatives as a state senator and as a county commissioner. She sponsored legislation to advance women, including the ERA, the Florida Commission on the Status of Women, funding of health examinations for rape victims, exclusion into evidence of a rape victim's sexual history, and a mandate for the state to provide kindergarten. She oversees 900 full-time employees and the disbursement of $1.4 billion, and that is billion with a B. She administers annually a budget of more than $83 million. She was the first woman to be admitted to the Georgetown University School of Law. She was elected most effective first-time member by the Florida House and was the first woman nominated most respected senator. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to present our 2007 Executive Woman of the Year, Pat Frank.
Thank you so very much to each of you, and thank you to the judges. Thank you to the members of the Network of Executive Women and those who put my name in among a wonderful group of nominees. Congratulations to the other nominees who have outstanding biographies and for the contributions you've made. I really didn't prepare anything because I feel so I'm more like a bridegroom, a bridesmaid rather than the bride. So this is really a surprise to me. But I do want to thank my children. 2 of them are here. Courtney's taking the picture. And Stacy is also across the table. I got to tell you that without my family, I don't think I could have done anything. My children have been marvelous. My husband, above all, has been my backer, my strong person, never envious of what I did, always supportive in failures and in successes. He truly is a strong individual. Stacy, my political strategist, got me through a lot of elections. We didn't do so well at the beginning. I always remind people that I lost 3 elections before I won one and was able to then start on my career. And I think that falls right in with Mary Key's comments, because I read a marquee a long time ago and it stuck in my mind. People who make mistakes never do any, who never make mistakes never do anything. So sometimes you make mistakes. You choose something that may not be the right thing for you at the time. But you've got to get back on the horse and ride again if it's really important to you. And it was to me. Being in public service was very important. I want to thank each of you in the community who ever supported me, ever voted for me. And I can see a lot of friends here. And they've been friends from the very beginning, and I'm so grateful to still call them friends. The last year's honoree, Louise Thompson, Linda Goldstein, Linda Fries, all my Athena friends, all the other friends who've helped me through the years. Helen Gordon Davis, who everyone knows Helen, and what a model she's been for women in her career and how she led the charge in the legislature for so many things on behalf of women. I want to thank the people at the clerk's office, and I've got some of them here. Everybody couldn't come, or you wouldn't have anything happening. But some of the directors are here, and I want to tell you, I'm working with a wonderful group of people. They are dedicated to what they're doing. They do it well, and they do it with grace. And some people ask me, what do you like best about what you've done in public office? And I say this, I like everything that I've done, because I've been blessed each time that I was elected to be at the right place at the right time. So let me just tell you for a minute that I'm really blessed to be clerk of the circuit court. I think this is really something that has been a challenge to me, and one that I find very personally rewarding. I made a statement at my investiture that I was going to look to the future of the clerk's office. And what I meant by that was we were going to have a paperless courtroom. We're going to make the clerk's office accessible to the public so that you can get on your internet and get more information without having to travel down to the courthouse. That is not an easy challenge, because we had to deal with a 22-year-old traffic system, which Jane Mumbauer is sitting over here as the traffic director. She's the one you usually have to face when you go down to pay your parking tickets, or your speeding tickets, I should say. But that had to be replaced. Also, at the same time, our court system is not capable of handling electronic processing. So we have to replace that. And when Mary Key was talking about, you know, taking the leap and going ahead and taking a chance on things, that was awesome, because when I got into office, I had to assess what the problems were in the office and what we were dealing with and how we were going to resolve it. And I changed some personnel at the top. I brought in a gentleman from Texas who had been in charge of the court system in Texas. And incidentally, that's a funny story, because I went out to a conference that the chief judge told me I should go to. He said they're going to have the state-of-the-art technology for courts out there, and I think you should see it. So I went out, and I was sitting on the plane, and I was between this woman and this man, and I talked to the woman for a while, and we went through talking about families and things that we were interested in, and then we exhausted our conversation, and I finally looked over at the man, and I said, well, you know, we'll start on him. And I asked and finally got to the point of, well, where are you going? He said, I'm going to this conference on court technology. I said, my gosh, I'm going too. What do you do? And he said, well, I'm in charge of the Houston court system. I'm their information technology person. I thought, aha. So we stayed in contact for a while after I got back to Tampa. And I sent out to him some of the abstracts of things that we were looking at in terms of court systems. And the more that we communicated, the more I realized this was a good fit for our office. So he's now a resident of Hillsborough County, and he's running our technology department. But, you know, investing millions and millions of dollars in a system, you have to know what you're doing, but I'm not a techie guru. I can operate a computer, but I'm certainly not technologically talented. And so blending together common sense and being able to read and comprehend what the pitfalls are, and mixing that all together and then deciding what the course of action is going to be, you then you know, you get this lump in your chest because you know when you write that approval for $6 or $7 million, that's not a small amount of change. And the worst thing is, suppose it fails, and suppose that then what you've committed to do is not successful. Well, I'm happy to report that so far we are doing great. The traffic system is going to be the first that we're going to unveil, and that's going to be very shortly on the front burner. And it's going to be a seamless kind of system, and one that is processed not with paper but electronically. And right along with that, we're now creating a new court system, which will allow the filing of papers electronically. We also, let me tell you something else that is, I think, interesting. We are going to have a self-help office. We've just finalized the conversion of some administrative offices. We think this was more important than the comfort of some of us as administrators. And so we put in some kiosks, and we're going to have people capable of filing simple divorces, simple small claims actions, and things that are, you know, not sophisticated legally at this office. You can do it yourself. We'll walk you through it on the computer, and the papers will be spit out for you to fill in and file at this point, because of course we don't have the court system on electronically yet. But in addition to that, for those who need legal assistance and can't afford it, we have an arrangement with Legal Aid, and we're going to have rooms of lawyers who have volunteered their time to come down and assist these people on a sliding scale fee. It'll be very nominal, but it'll help people through, for instance, divorces may require a little bit more massaging legally. And so this ensures that people will really be able to avoid the cost of an attorney. So I think we're making great progress. I also am starting a work-from-home program, and because as we get to the electronic processing of so much information, and right now we have a lot of data entry that's still going on, there's no reason why people can't do that from their homes. So we're identifying dependable employees who we think are responsible and who can handle this, and this frees them. And if somebody has a child to care for, you know, they then don't have to worry about daycare. If they have an ailing relative, they can take care of the person at the same time. And we can use the hours in a flexible way as long as they get the volume of work completed as we expect them to do, and we will be monitoring that. There are a lot of changes happening, and in this case, I think change is good, and I think it's good for the public. I think you will benefit from it in the end, and it's going to take a while before all of this is completed. We don't expect the court system to be in place until 2008, 2009, because what we're doing is really avant-garde. We have the very finest Microsoft work being done, state-of-the-art, and we have the experts who are gold certified in Microsoft working with us and our people in designing the system. We're not buying a system that's just in a package that we bought off the shelf. We are designing it for our needs internally. And the beauty of that is when the legislature changes the law and we have to do things differently, we don't have to go out to a vendor and pay them $100,000, which was frequently done, to modify the system. We can do it with our own personnel in-house, and we can do it quicker and better. So it's going to be a win-win all the way across the board, financially for the people and ease of use for the consumers. I think the judges will like it. We have been running an electronic courtroom on just a trial basis for some of the judges who are going to be handling the business court, and they are pleased with what they see as something that we could work with at this point, with a very weak court system that we have to back it up. We can't do it across the board, but we can do it in a specific area. So all in all, I'm just saying keep posted, and I hope you'll start to take a look at the clerk's office, because I have 1,000 responsibilities under the statute. It is the most interesting, full of many challenges offices that I know of, and yet it's one that's least talked about and probably least understood. And with all the offices I've ever held, I've got to confess that I didn't know everything that the clerk did until I got in here. And I still don't, but believe me, I'm learning, and I will know everything before long. Again, my deepest gratitude to you, and my congratulations to my fellow nominees. You're outstanding people. Thank you very much.